Welcome, everyone. This is G. Welcome back to another piece of the April solar eclipse, the total solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Aries. And we're going to do a deep dive on that degree, 2950. 2950 is 30 degrees of Aries. In some schools of thought, 2950 equaling 30. In some schools of thought, there's no such thing as 30 degrees. The 30 degrees then becomes the 0 degrees of the next sign. So what that right there tells us is that we should expect there's a combination factor. See this chart, right? You can see clearly where I have the 29 degrees marked. So what this tells us is that this 29 degrees is very close, like 30 degrees, which means it's like a breath away, right? It's holding hands with 0 degrees of Taurus energy. Yeah. So we have to think about 29 degrees of Aries. We have to think about even 28 degrees, right? Because look how many things we have in this chart. Like there's Vulcan, there's Estrella, then there's the moon, and then there's the sun. So what I'm doing is I am starting at the 29 degrees of Aries, because this 28 degrees of Aries, you know how we have these two things at 28. If you look at the minutes on those 2 degrees, so what you see here is you see this 28, but you see the minutes 43. See that 43? Right. So the rule is it's if your minutes are over 30, then you go up, you round up to the next degree. So that means our Vulcan is actually at 29. And that means that this 2856 Estrella is also at 29, right? So we've got things definitely at 29 degrees and this definitely at 30 degrees. So we're going to start off with the 29 degrees of Aries. And for those of you who are into soul astrology, soul growth astrology, spiritual astrology, evolutionary astrology, whether you consider yourself a star seed, some stardust, like this is going to be important. This is from Dane Rudhyar. That's Rudhyar. So here it is. Attunement to cosmic order. Aries at 29 degrees is music of the spheres. At the 4th stage of a 5-fold sequence, a technique is often presented. It is based on the experiences implied in the preceding symbols. So I'm going to go back and we're going to read what the preceding symbol was. And the description they give here is a large audience confronts the performer who disappointed its expectations. The keynote says the necessity for mature preparation and self-criticism. Interesting. So the one that we're on now, this 29 degrees, is the music of the spheres, okay? Some would say that those spheres are planets, right? Spheres, planets, something that's round, and the music, the sounds, the energy, the frequency, the vibrations that the planets give off, and the music of the spheres, attunement to cosmic order. In this case, what the individual who has entered into a new realm of possibilities of action should learn is the harmonic principles operating in this realm. So you see there's some keywords we can pull out from this and help us to understand a little bit better. The word harmony, right? Harmonic, hear the word harmony in that. The realm of possibilities of action should learn is the harmonic principles operating in this realm. The music of the spheres is the celestial embodiment of principles of polyphonic interplay. The music of the spheres is the celestial embodiment of principles of polyphonic interplay. The individual advancing, in quotes, on the path, end quotes, should seek to understand and realize his place in the vast scheme of mankind's evolution, in the immense chord, C-H-O-R-D, and that is capitalized, in the immense chord of the harmony of the universe. The message to the seeker for meaning, which is implied in this symbol, is to listen to the inner voice. To listen without personalizing this voice is a glamour-producing manner. It is the voice of the whole, and the whole is capitalized, of which one begins to realize that one is a tiny little part, yet a significant part. For every note of the universal chord has its place and its ineradicable meaning. So that's 29 degrees of Aries, right? And we've got Vulcan, which is the material and the tangible, someone who can forge things. Think of the hammer and the anvil. Think of the blacksmith, right? Think of the blacksmith. Estrella is kind of like that pit bull energy. It refuses to stop what it's doing, which can be wonderful when you need to persevere and to persist against all odds, right? But it does have a tendency to not let go when it's done and over. It has a tendency to keep on going in it, which is why I use the pit bull reference to Estrella's energy. And it's in Aries, so it's there's a lot of fight here. All right, so now we're going to read the 29, actually the 30 degrees of Aries, because he gives a meaning for 30 degrees of Aries. And it says, here's the visual, a duck pond and its brood. So we've got a mama duck, possibly the father, floating around too, finding food and protecting on the perimeter, which is normally what they do. And then its brood, its babies. The keynote, the realization of natural boundaries. Natural boundaries. Have you ever watched ducks together with their mom? It's absolutely amazing. Mama duck goes and leads, and you see this little trail of ducklings following her. And then when mama duck starts to give them a little bit more space, they still act within the pack. They still operate as a group. It's really fascinating. She's kind of always, she just gives them a little bit more space. And so it's it's like a graduation, right? They're growing up and she's recognizing that because she wants them to learn to do for themselves. And that's so vital in this world. And that's when our individuality comes about, right? So it's keynote, realization of natural boundaries. And here's the paragraph that follows. After the preceding symbol, and we know the preceding symbol was the music of the spheres, right? So after the preceding symbol, this may seem anticlimactic. What is shown here is that every form of activity has its limits, and that even the consciousness that has been able to get a glimpse of the universal order has to bring down to its own karmic field of operations the message of harmony it has heard inwardly. Peace and inner contentment with one's essential destiny, and in parentheses, the word dharma with a D, is required to meet the everyday world. The mystic may experience flights of imagination and transcendent vision, but he must return to the concrete earth and to his task in his social environment. Extensive as the latter may seem, it is still very small compared to the galactic field. It is indeed a duck pond compared to the ocean, but it is there that the substance for concrete action has to be found, and every effective activity has to be focused. Thus, the boundaries imposed by the very nature of this activity have to be consciously accepted. A deep dive of 30 degrees Aries.
Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.